Before this day opens up and the world starts pulling at you, take a breath. Just stop for a second. This isn't an ordinary morning, even if it looks like one from the outside. Something brought you here, to this moment, to these words. That's not a coincidence. There's a quiet kind of intelligence at work in the timing of things, in what we notice and when we notice it. And right now, that intelligence is pointing you inward, because real lasting change has never started on the outside. It always begins with a silent decision made somewhere deep within you. So as you listen, release the urge to do anything. You don't need to push or fix or chase right now. All you need to do is settle into the understanding that what you desire isn't far away. It's already alive within you. This morning is full of possibility. This moment is more powerful than you might think. And something genuinely good is already making its way toward you. Every single morning, before life gets loud, before the responsibilities start stacking up, you step into a state of being. The problem is that most people do this without thinking. They wake up and immediately carry yesterday into today. Old feelings, unresolved worries, the same tired expectations. But here's what most people miss. The day doesn't actually begin with what happens around you. It begins with what you quietly accept within you. The very first emotional tone you allow yourself to sit in becomes like a blueprint for everything that follows. If you rise with the assumption that today will be hard, that things won't work out, that you're up against something, life will faithfully confirm that for you. But if you wake up with the inner sense that support is available, that things tend to work in your favor, that ease is possible, the same law responds with equal accuracy. The morning isn't just a time on the clock, it's a threshold. And what you carry across that threshold internally shapes everything you walk into externally. An assumption isn't the same as a wish or a hope. A wish says maybe. An assumption says this is simply how things are for me. It's a quiet internal agreement. Once that agreement is in place, the mind begins doing something remarkable. It starts selecting, filtering, and arranging your experiences in ways that confirm it. This is why two people can move through the exact same circumstances and arrive at completely different outcomes. They're not living in the same internal world. When you consciously decide what you're going to assume at the start of your day, you're no longer just reacting to life. You're shaping it in advance. You're deciding how the day will feel, how situations will resolve, how energy will flow, and none of that requires strain. In fact, the more relaxed and settled the assumption, the more effective it is. Life responds to certainty, not effort. Think about how different a day feels when you wake up with a quiet inner knowing that things will be okay. Conversations go smoother. Opportunities find you without you having to hunt them down. Even when challenges show up, they don't hit as hard because you're not meeting them from a place of fear. You're meeting them from a place of steadiness. The mind will try to push back. It'll drag up old problems, unfinished business, reasons to doubt. But the whole point of a morning assumption isn't to analyze the past. It's to choose what state you're going to inhabit right now. The past only stays alive when you keep assuming it must. The moment you choose something different, its grip begins to loosen. A strong morning assumption doesn't focus on specific outcomes. It focuses on identity. Not "I hope today is good," but rather a quiet, settled sense of "I'm someone for whom things tend to go well." That's a small shift in wording, but it changes everything. Life doesn't just rearrange events, it rearranges itself around who you believe yourself to be. And as the day unfolds, that assumption starts to confirm itself. A moment of unexpected ease here, a problem that solves itself there, a calm where there used to be tension. These aren't random. They're reflections of the state you chose at the beginning of the day. Even when the outer world seems slow to shift, stay loyal to what you've chosen inside. What moves first is always invisible. The inner shift sets things in motion long before you can see them moving. Once you truly understand this, mornings stop being something you rush through. They become sacred. You realize you're not waking up into a day. The day is waking up into you. So choose carefully, choose gently, choose with confidence. Because the assumption you settle into each morning doesn't just color your day. It becomes your day. Most people spend their lives trying to attract better things, better relationships, better opportunities, a better version of the life they're living. They visualize, they wait, they wonder why the needle isn't moving. But here's the thing that changes everything. Life doesn't respond to wanting. It responds to being. Your external world isn't something you pull toward yourself like a magnet. It's something you're constantly expressing outward. The world around you functions like a mirror, reflecting back the state you most consistently occupy within. This is why sheer effort alone doesn't produce lasting change. You can grind hard, think positive thoughts for a moment, repeat affirmations without any real feeling behind them, and still feel like you're standing still. The mirror doesn't care what you say you want. It reflects what you actually assume yourself to be. When you understand that you're reflecting rather than attracting, something important shifts. Responsibility comes back to you, not as blame, but as genuine power. You stop needing the world to cooperate. You stop chasing outcomes. You simply adjust the internal position you're standing in, and the reflection changes on its own. If your life keeps showing you resistance, delays, or disappointment, it's not because life is working against you. It's because the inner state being reflected outward carries the frequency of struggle or uncertainty. Life isn't judging that. It's just faithfully reproducing it. And once you see that, frustration gives way to clarity. Nothing is broken. Everything is working exactly as it should. The mirror is doing its job. You don't have to manage the reflection. You just have to change what's standing in front of it. When you genuinely accept yourself inwardly as someone who is supported, valued, and favored, your outer world begins to echo that back. People respond to you differently. Situations soften. The timing of things improves. Not because the world changed its mind, but because you changed your state. This also explains why trying to fix things from the outside is so exhausting. You're working on the reflection instead of the source. You try to manage conversations, control reactions, force outcomes, but the inner assumption stays untouched. The mirror can only shift when the person standing before it shifts. You don't need to script every detail of what you want. You need to feel your way into a new identity. Ask yourself quietly, who would I be if this were already resolved? What would that feel like? That feeling, whether it's calm or relief or a simple quiet confidence, that's the state you begin to reflect. And the world reorganizes itself around it. The mind might object. It might ask, but what about action? Action still matters. But it flows from the state you're in. When you reflect confidence, your actions carry confidence. When you reflect certainty, your choices become clear. Action becomes an extension of who you're being, not a desperate attempt to compensate for it. There's real freedom in this. You stop blaming circumstances. You stop waiting for someone or something to give you permission. You stop measuring everything by how things look right now. Instead, you focus inward, knowing that every genuine inner shift must eventually produce an outer echo. As this awareness deepens, you become more intentional about the states you allow yourself to sit in. You notice how quickly an assumption, a mood, an inner conversation can shape an entire experience. And rather than fighting those states or judging yourself for them, you simply guide yourself back. You choose again. You're not here to attract a better life someday. You're here to reflect the feeling of fulfillment now. And the mirror of life will do the rest. One of the quietest traps the mind sets is the belief that you need to see proof before you're allowed to feel certain. You've likely been trained, often without realizing it, to wait for signs, results, or evidence before you let yourself relax into confidence. But life doesn't work in that order. It's always decision first, proof later. When you reverse that sequence, when you wait for the proof before making the decision, things slow down and fulfillment stays just out of reach. A decision isn't a loud declaration. It's a quiet inner conclusion. It's the moment you stop asking whether something will happen and simply accept that it's already settled. From that point forward, your inner conversations change. Your reactions soften. Your expectations shift. And without even consciously trying, you begin moving through life like someone who already knows how things turn out. Waiting for proof keeps you rooted in uncertainty. It tells life that you haven't actually decided yet. And life responds to that honestly by keeping the thing at a distance. This isn't some kind of punishment. It's precision. Life can only confirm what you've already agreed to on the inside. When you decide first, something begins to release. The anxious urgency to check, to worry, to control starts to dissolve. You stop scanning your surroundings for reassurance because you're carrying something that doesn't need it. A quiet knowing that is grounded and calm and as a result deeply magnetic. The mind will resist this. It'll tell you to be realistic, to wait until you're sure, but certainty doesn't come from gathering enough facts. It comes from assumption. Facts are simply reflections of the assumptions you've already made. If you want something new, you have to step beyond what's currently visible and commit to it inwardly before there's anything to see. Yes, this feels uncomfortable at first. You're stepping out of alignment with appearances and into alignment with intention. But that discomfort is temporary. Once the decision settles and stabilizes, the body relaxes, the inner tension fades, and life quietly begins rearranging itself to match the new conclusion. The proof doesn't always come rushing in, and it doesn't need to. What moves first is always unseen. Conversations start aligning. Opportunities begin taking shape. Timing adjusts in ways you couldn't have planned for. And then one day, almost without fanfare, the proof just appears. Not as some dramatic miracle you strained toward, but as a natural, almost obvious outcome. If you find yourself reaching for signs, gently come back to the decision. Signs are echoes, not causes. The cause is always the inner agreement you made. Return to it quietly, not with force, but with calm certainty. A real decision doesn't argue with doubt. It simply outlasts it. Doubt may still pass through your mind, but it no longer gets to define your state. You're not pushing uncertainty down. You're standing in something deeper than it. Living this way changes your relationship with time. Delays stop feeling heavy. You trust the unfolding because you've already accepted the ending. That trust isn't passive. It's active alignment. And when you understand that proof follows decision, you stop postponing your own peace. You stop living in suspense. You settle inwardly, and life mirrors that settlement outwardly. Decide first. Let life catch up. Because once the decision is genuinely made, the outcome isn't really a question anymore. It's just a matter of time before it becomes visible. Most people think of gratitude as something you feel after good things happen, a natural response to a positive outcome. But genuine gratitude is something far more powerful than that. It's not a reaction to events. It's a state of being. Real gratitude is the inner feeling that nothing is missing, that what you desired has already been fulfilled, that the matter is closed. And because life mirrors inner states, that feeling of completeness becomes the actual cause of visible results. When you feel grateful before there's any evidence to justify it, you're not faking anything. You're simply occupying the emotional position of someone whose desire has already been met. You're standing at the end of the experience instead of in the middle of the waiting. This is why gratitude is so effective. It leaves no room for doubt, for straining, for struggle. You cannot genuinely feel grateful and feel like something is missing at the same time. Those two states cannot coexist. The moment gratitude becomes your natural resting place, the inner tension around wanting dissolves. There's no urgency, no mental checking, no anxious wondering of when. Gratitude implies that it already has happened, and that quiet implication communicates something to life that words and affirmations simply can't. Gratitude also shifts where your attention goes, naturally and without force. You begin noticing flow instead of friction, harmony instead of resistance. And as your attention changes, your experience follows. What you acknowledge inwardly has a way of expanding outwardly. This doesn't mean you have to feel excited or artificially cheerful. True gratitude is often very calm and understated. It feels like relief, like settling into something solid, like exhaling after you've been holding your breath without realizing it. That's the feeling life responds to most readily and most consistently. When gratitude is genuinely present, you stop trying to orchestrate how everything happens. You trust the timing. You allow things to unfold in their own way. This isn't passivity. It's alignment. It's a signal to life that you're no longer in opposition to what you want. When doubts surface or the mind starts cataloging what's missing, gratitude quietly redirects it. You don't fight the thought. You simply return to the feeling of it being done. Over time, that feeling stabilizes, and the outer world begins reflecting it back, first in subtle ways, then in increasingly obvious ones. Gratitude also reshapes your identity. You stop being someone who is hoping for change and become someone who lives in a state of completion. That shift changes how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you respond to things. Others pick up on it. Situations respond to it. Life opens to it. It's worth being clear that none of this means you pretend challenges don't exist. It means you choose the feeling of the final outcome over the noise of temporary appearances. You acknowledge what's visible without giving it authority over your inner state. Your center stays anchored in fulfillment regardless of what's happening around you. As gratitude deepens, things begin to feel almost effortless. You're not making things happen. You're allowing what's already been accepted within to appear on the outside. This is why gratitude often moves things faster than effort does. It removes resistance entirely. When you live in gratitude, you stop chasing confirmations and start receiving them. Life meets you exactly where you are, and where you are is already complete. Gratitude isn't the reward you get at the end of the journey. It's the doorway you walk through to begin it. Step into it, and the world will follow. Every inner shift starts with a decision, but it's persistence that allows that decision to take root deeply enough to become visible. A lot of people assume once, feel a flicker of hope, and then let the state go the moment the outer world doesn't immediately reflect it back. But life doesn't respond to fleeting moods or momentary intentions. It responds to the state you consistently come back to. Persistence here isn't about forcing belief or wrestling your doubts into submission. It's a quiet faithfulness to the assumption you've chosen, even when appearances seem to tell a different story. You're not fighting the world. You're simply refusing to let temporary reflections rewrite your inner position. And that kind of steadiness, calm and unassuming as it is what actually produces results. The outer world is always a little behind. It's reflecting past assumptions, not the ones you're holding right now. That delay isn't a flaw in the system. It's the bridge between an inner shift and its outward confirmation. When you understand this, delay stops looking like failure. It starts looking like evidence that something has already changed inwardly and is now working its way to the surface. When you persist in an assumption over time, your inner conversations naturally begin to change. You stop reacting emotionally to every sign or absence of one. You stay anchored. And that anchoring creates a kind of coherence, a harmony between what you think, what you feel, and what you expect. That coherence is genuinely powerful. Doubt will still come up. Persistence doesn't mean doubt disappears. It means you don't give doubt a permanent address in your mind. You notice it, and then you gently return to what you've chosen. Over time, the assumption stops feeling like something you're deliberately maintaining and starts feeling like simply who you are. And that's the point. That's when things become inevitable. Life cannot indefinitely hold a reflection that contradicts a stable, consistent inner state. The mirror must adjust. People begin responding to you differently. Circumstances shift. Doors that seemed closed start opening. And often when these changes come, they feel almost ordinary. Not the dramatic breakthrough you might have imagined, but something quieter and more natural, something aligned. Persistence also protects you from the emotional exhaustion of riding highs and lows. You stop measuring your progress hour by hour or day by day. You stop being at the mercy of whatever the morning brings. You remain centered, trusting the process because you genuinely understand the law behind it. A lot of people abandon their assumption right at the most critical moment, just before it solidifies into reality. They look too soon. They check too often. In doing so, they step back into uncertainty and undo the very thing that was about to appear. Persistence means you stop checking and start knowing. And that knowing is quiet. It doesn't need anyone to validate it. It's settled, patient, and absolutely confident in the inevitability of what's coming. As that persistence deepens, something interesting happens. The effort falls away entirely. You're no longer repeating things to convince yourself. You simply return to the feeling of completion whenever your mind drifts. That return, that gentle redirection is enough. Eventually, the assumption becomes your default way of being. And when it does, the outer world has no choice but to conform to it. What was once imagined becomes experienced. What was once assumed becomes seen. Persistence is the quiet force behind every real transformation. Not intensity, not struggle, just a loyal, unwavering return to the inner truth you've chosen. Stay faithful, stay calm, and let life reveal what has already been decided within you. Now take a moment just to be still. Notice that nothing needs to be added or proven or earned right now. You've already chosen a new inner position, and that choice has set things in motion that you may not be able to see yet, but are already real. From this place, life responds naturally. Doors open without you having to force them. Answers appear without desperate searching. What once felt stuck begins to move with an ease that surprises you. Carry this feeling with you as your day unfolds. Let it shape how you think, how you speak, what you expect. Not with tension or effort, but with a quiet confidence that doesn't need to announce itself. You don't need to watch for signs. You don't need to keep checking. The assumption has been made. Life has received it. Today is aligned. Today is on your side. And what you've quietly accepted within is already becoming visible without. It's done. Thank you for giving yourself these few minutes of stillness. Thank you for choosing presence over worry and for starting your day from a place of inner strength rather than noise. If this has settled something in you, carry it forward. Come back to it whenever you feel yourself drifting. And remember, the state you live in on the inside is always creating the world you experience on the outside. Have a truly beautiful day.